credit cards, none of that would work. Most gas stations wouldn't work without electricity. You probably wouldn't be able to do your job. Employment would collapse. The country would collapse. Commerce would be brought to a standstill. Hospitals wouldn't be able to function. Medicine would all run out. All refrigerated items and frozen items would start to go bad. This can happen without an attack. We're a lot closer to this actually being a real reality than we ever have been. North Korea is able to do it. Ooh, what a rogue nation that is. Won't be that long, and Iran will be able to do it thanks to our good old president, Barack Hussein Obama. Barack Obama. And this will be an abomination. Isn't that an interesting play on words the Bible speaks of? Did you see this new Islamic State video out of Al Jazeera? Of course, this is on several other websites. New Islamic State video calls for attacks on the American homeland, promises another 9/11 that will instill far more fear. The name of their 11-minute video is "We Will Burn America." I've watched the video. It's rather twisted. Kind of reminds me of the 1970s Charlie's Angels intro. Some of the explosions they've superimposed on the videos. Saying they're going to burn America. A greater attack is coming. You scared? Yeah, me neither. Out of Prophecy News Watch. 10 quotes that reveal Barack Obama's obsession with a Palestinian state. He seems to be obsessed with getting the Jewish people and the Palestinians to agree to a peace deal that will permanently divide the land of Israel. The Bible speaks against dividing the land. In fact, God will fight against those who divide his land. And yet our president blindly insists on doing so. God says in Genesis 12, he'll bless those who bless thee, and curse him who curses thee, speaking of the nation that Abraham was to become. Obama thinks if he can accomplish this, he'll be a great peacemaker. That'll be part of his legacy as president. I think down the road, the biggest legacy to his presidency will be that he was convicted of treason and spent the latter years of his life in prison. Just saying. Just saying. Here's 10 things he said that reveals his obsession with a Palestinian state. Number 1, negotiations will be necessary, but there's little secret about where they must lead. 2 states for 2 peoples. Number 2, and I think everybody understands the outlines of what a peace deal would look like, involving a territorial compromise on both sides based on 67 lines with mutually agreed upon swaps that would ensure that Israel was secure, but would also ensure that the Palestinians have a sovereign state in which they can achieve the aspirations that they've held for so long. What are those aspirations? The destruction of Israel. And if you can take away their God-given land bit by bit, piece by piece, the Palestinians and the Arabs and Muslims will be able to make that happen. Isn't it interesting? The world trying to make them give away their God-given land. Number 3, the only way for Israel to endure and thrive as a Jewish state and democratic state is through the realization of an independent and viable Palestine. These are all Barack Hussein Obama quotes. Number 4, neither occupation nor expulsion is the answer. Just as Israelis built a state in their homeland, Palestinians have a right to be a free people in their own land. Number 5, he said, let me be clear, the United States strongly supports the goal of 2 states, Israel and Palestine, living side by side in peace and security. Peace and security. Isn't that biblical? That is a goal shared by Palestinians, Israelis, and people of goodwill around the world. That is a goal of the parties agreed to in the roadmap and at Annapolis. This is a goal I will actively pursue as President of the United States. Number 6, we continue to believe that a 2-state solution is the only way for long-term security of Israel, if it wants to stay both a Jewish state and democratic. Number 7, it's not fair that a Palestinian child cannot grow up in a state of her own and lives with the presence of a foreign army that controls the movements of her parents every single day. Really? Because In Israel, they're free to live. They're free to move. They're free to worship however they please. Ask the Palestinian people if they'd rather live in Gaza under Palestinian rule or if they'd rather live in Israel under Israeli rule. Okay? I talked to a lot of Palestinians in Israel, and none of them want to live in a Palestinian state. They're all like, the oppression, the benefits, the job opportunities, no. Give me Israel. Number 8, none of us are under any illusion this would be easy. As I said in my speech, it's already entailed significant political risk by President Abbas as well as Netanyahu. The reason they're willing to take those risks is they realize this is the best way, the only way for us to achieve what should be our goal, 2 states living side by side in peace and security. Number 9, just as the Israeli people have the right to live in the historic homeland of the Jewish people, the Palestinian people deserve the right to self-determination. Palestinian children have hopes and dreams for their future and deserve to live with the dignity that can only come with a state of their own. Number 10, the only solution is a democratic Jewish state living side by side in peace and security with a viable, independent Palestinian state. Most of the world seems to ignore the fact that Egypt, less than a year ago, offered a larger chunk of land to the Palestinians than Israel could ever give them. And the Palestinians turned it down quietly. They said, no. We're not going to take that land because it wouldn't hurt Israel if we did. Yeah, see, we know what their true goal is. Their goal isn't peace at all. Their goal is not even a state. Their goal is to wipe Israel out. And taking away some of their land is the next step to do so. Let's make sure you understand why they want this land from Israel. Judea, biblical heartland. I mean, they're called Jews because they come from Judea. I don't know how many Jewish people told me this in Israel, but they all said the same thing. We're called Jews because we come from Judea. Like, okay, I get it. How about this out of Reuters? Russia opens way to missile deliveries to Iran. Starts oil for goods swap. Russia gonna start giving goods to Iran in exchange for oil, sending them the S-300 anti-missile rocket system. Anti-missile rocket system. Of course, it's also an air defense system for invading jets. Isn't that interesting? We know from Ezekiel 38:39 that Iran, Persia, will lead a world army with Russia against Israel. We're already seeing the pieces in place for this to happen. Already. Exciting times we live in, people. Watch and pray, as Jesus said. Out of the Jerusalem Post, majority of Israelis in favor of some arrangement for Jewish prayer rites at the Temple Mount. This is a huge thing. The Jews in Israel are like, it's our Temple Mount. We need to be able to pray there. In fact, we need to be able to have our temple there and have our daily sacrifices there and do everything that the first 2 temples did. It's coming, people. It's coming. It will not be that far off. Wouldn't surprise me one bit if after this 4th blood moon in September on the Feast of the Tabernacles, if we don't see them get the green light to build their temple. Out of Nehemiah 9, verse 3, it says, "Then they stood up in their place and read in the book of the law of the Lord their God 1/4 part of the day, and another 4th part they confessed and worshiped the Lord their God." So half of their day was spent reading the book of the law of the Lord their God, and another 4th they confessed and worshiped. Half of their day was reading, confessing, and worshiping the Lord. Are we that dedicated? Do we devote that much time to God? Recognizing our sin and our wickedness is the beginning of salvation. You know, we're talking about all these presidential candidates coming out. Hillary, we got Rand Paul, we got Ted Cruz, we've got, who's the other guy? Rubio. They've all thrown their hat in the ring. Who knows what our next leader will look like? I can't imagine anyone wanting to continue on this same road we're on. But back in 1983, there was a couple of other congressmen, senators, that were both slapped with misconduct with their 17-year-old pages. Gary Studs out of Massachusetts and Daniel Crane. They were both in trouble for inappropriate activities with a minor, basically. And you could see the difference in them when they admitted. Crane admitted tearfully he broke the laws of God and man. He even cast a vote for his own censure.